just goes to show you that in God's time, when it's your time, you will go. Flooding occurs in Kansas, Missouri, and in a lot of the southern states this year. The winter, strange enough, will be mild for most of the east, except for Boston and Philadelphia. See what's happening? We're in a polar tilt. I remember 30 years ago, I was on People Are Talking on Channel 5 in Northern California. And I said, we're in a polar tilt. And everybody said, well, she's a nice person, but she's a little bit off. Well, we are. That's what's causing the polar tilt. And the polar tilt causes the weather to be crazy. There will be many blackouts in the eastern U.S. this winter and brownouts in the Midwest after January. Tornadoes hit Oklahoma and parts of Illinois, Kansas, and Missouri in April and May. Now, this is not unusual, but these are pretty devastating. All in all, it's a bad year for hurricanes, tsunamis, and tornadoes. And I'm sorry to give you that information. Celebrities. This might surprise you, but everybody went, oh, when I said Brad Pitt and Jen Aniston were going to break up. But I'm telling you now, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie are in really trouble, and they could very well separate towards the end of the year. Harrison Ford will have some health problems. Not bad, but it'll be a health scare. Clint Eastwood will have some leg problems. It almost seems like a very, very bad case of varicose veins that are going to have to be stripped. It's going to be very painful for him. Robert Redford is honored for his award-winning documentary. And also, I think, for him starting Sundance. Paris Hilton will land in jail over an accident. That isn't, I don't think, a big surprise to anybody. Britney Spears will become ill and not be able to perform for 4 months, and that's towards the mid part of the year. Katie Couric is replaced from her position on the CBS Nightly News, and it will be, I don't know who it'll be, but it'll be someone that has been on one of the Good Morning America shows or something like that. Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins will start a large organization concerning fuel shortage and solar energy, and they've always been into, save the world, so I don't think that's too unusual. Nicole Richie will separate from Joel Madden. The Olsen twins will be picked up and questioned regarding drugs. Okay, now we have accidents, terrorisms, and crime. A large liner goes aground in March, sending many people in the water. And please don't think it's one of my trips that I'm going on, because I'm going on 4 trips this year. And believe me, I wouldn't get on one that was going to go aground. I again see many train accidents. There is not enough attention being paid to old tracks. The last time I predicted that, I counted them with 200 train accidents. There will be 2 plane crashes near the East Coast in August and September. A terrorist attack will occur the latter part of January, but that will be overseas, and it will be close to Paris, France. Thank God no one will really be hurt, but it's just the idea that these people can leak through the cracks. There will be 3 terrorist attacks in India in February. And here we go. We've already seen one. And this was, I said, done in September. So we're going to see 2 more. The United States is safe. However, there will be many workers' strikes in the building industry, in dock workers, and in the waste management industry on the East and West Coasts in June and July. There will be a large bank robbery in Las Vegas involving a Brinks truck in June. And for God's sake, they seem to get off with it. Gangs get out of hand in Los Angeles and especially Texas and Louisiana. Now, we've always known that there were gangs in L.A., but the gangs have really started to burst loose in Texas and Louisiana. I mean, to the point that in some parts, people are actually afraid to go out the door. Oakland, California becomes like Watts during their turmoil period with an uprising occurring, and it's over something that has to do with a police officer and gang members. But all in all, I know that it sounds dire, some of this, but I think that, like I've told my people so many times, is that if you just keep yourself to yourself, and you just keep your loved ones around you, and spiritually keep yourself intact, we don't have to go out and mingle and try to figure out, and I've even said this in my lectures, stop listening to all of the bad news. Because you've got to realize, be smart enough to realize that there's only about 20 companies that rule the Dow average. So it's not the whole world. And you know what we're going to see? We're going to see a lot of mom and pop operations start up again, which I think is wonderful. You remember as kids, maybe some of you will, that you went down to the local grocery store that was owned by Mr. Brinks or whoever, or you went to the seamstress across the street that made dresses. We're going to see more and more of that going on. We're going to get away from the big, huge, giant conglomerates. We're going to have some of them, because after all, that's big money. But we're going to see more and more people starting their own business, whether it's on internet or where. But people are now, I guess during the day when I do 20 readings a day, I see more and more people that are starting their own businesses where they never, ever did that before. And isn't it nice to know that something will be handmade rather than just, everything made in China, and that's nothing against the Chinese, but everything made somewhere else, rather than saying it was USA made. Yeah, because we have all the equipment to make sweaters, skirts, clothes, designs, even technology. We don't have to depend on every other country for all the technology that we have. So I think if we become self-reliant, I think we're going to feel better and more secure. And not only that, but think of it this way. You give people more jobs if you become self-reliant. Look, I have 3 corporations, and I employ a lot of people. I don't depend on anybody's money except what I make. And that's a great security, except for also what my son makes, Chris. We keep 3 organizations going. So we don't have to depend on what the NASDAQ does or the Dow does. And I think some of you people that are holding on to your houses, I think you're going to get a break of 3 or 4 months that you could possibly come up. But see, we were flying so high that something really had to be done. We were just going over the top. We had to level off. And we all knew, sitting down here, that we were in a recession, but they wouldn't tell us that. But trust me when I tell you this, we're not going to go into a depression. No, we're not. No. But we're not going to also be duped into these stupid loans. Get in here for nothing down, and then it became a balloon payment. And then what hit the fan, and then everybody was saying, oh my God, my mortgage has tripled. So we're not going to do that anymore. You're going to get a fixed rate. But anybody who has money, I've said, please go out and buy now. That's how these big moguls have made money. They have gone out and bought up all the property. But the problem is, I don't, you don't, we don't have the money to go out and buy all this property. But if you do, then do it, because it will come back. The one good thing about property, it's not like stocks, because stocks anymore, you might as well go to Vegas and roll the dice. Because one day it's up 300 points, 600 points, the next time it's 300 down. It's like the NASDAQ. That only also reflects about 20 big companies. It's not the whole world. So when you look at the stock market, please remember what I'm telling you.